15 seconds. Guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's go. Yo, what's going on? It's Solo by Design, and you're now rocking with the Sonic Universal Experience, the Sonic Universal Podcast. First off, I want to thank you guys for logging in with me. First, I ask you guys to share, like, comment, whatever you have to do to get this podcast out to your fellow followers. But other than that, let's get right into it. Shout out to all of the people being a force in providing support within their community. Brothers like Master P has offered the elderly free hand sanitizer and deep cleaning of their home to combat COVID-19. NBA players such as Kevin Love of the Cleveland Cavaliers has donated $100,000 to his home arena staff. His help has prompted Blake Griffin of the Detroit Pistons to also donate $100,000 to compensate employees at Little Caesars Arena in Detroit, Michigan. Milwaukee Bucks star Giannis Antetokounmpo also did the same for his home arena. Stephen Curry and his wife announced that their foundation would be donating to the Alameda County Community Food Bank as well as Feed America. Jimmy Fallon and actor Ryan Reynolds also made donations to Feeding America. P. Diddy has put together ideas to support healthcare workers out on the front line. Oprah Winfrey has donated $10 million to coronavirus relief. $1 million of that will go to Feeding America. It's nice to see people take to apps like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter to showcase their creativeness. There's been a plethora of challenges: the Don't Rush Challenge, Pass the Ox Challenge, push-up challenges, as well as TikTok Chronicles. And also, let's give a huge shout out to the DJs who shut it down across the live streams using social media from Instagram to Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or even TikTok. You guys shut it down. You guys were amazing, providing entertainment to the families stuck at home during the COVID-19 pandemic. And also to those who are sitting at home, make sure you're using this time wisely to better the relationships with your kids, your significant other, or even better yourselves within the crafts that you do or at the job that you currently work at. Moving on. Later within the show, we'll be discussing topics relating to banking black or black banks, companies hiring during and after the pandemic, Nick Cannon's documentary and Dr. Sebi's death, as well as the T-Pain and Little John showdown on Instagram, as well as some other things. So you guys stay locked in. I'll have more on that later on. Something unique that I wanted to include within the show is a business showcasing, where I highlight 3 businesses or organizations that provide services, product, or entertainment that's expansive for the culture, for progressive for the world, and impactful for the people. And the first honorary mention on that list is Nightfall Comics. Nightfall Comics is the universe of master illustrator and author Isaac Williams. Mr. Williams recently released his first comic, The Martian, Wanderlust Book 1, which is based on an explorer in outer space who finds himself on an unknown planet, oblivious to what's lurking in his environment. He must come to terms of how to deal with these obstacles in front of him losing his memory and going through extraterrestrial events. My vision is not to only expand my universe, but to create something that's unique, intriguing, said Mr. Williams. I want my audience to keep coming back for more. more. I hope to get individuals to understand that not every story has to give all of the answers up front. Sometimes the best stories are the suspenseful ones. We'll get to the next two businesses later on. Next, let's discuss COVID-19. When COVID-19 first hit America hard last month, the narrative was that it was the great equalizer, that in such a divided nation, our shared humanity meant we would be equal in our suffering. But those of us who understand racial caste in America knew this could never be true. While the face of the coronavirus in the media has been disproportionately white, race data trickling out shows that the victims, particularly those dying from it, are disproportionately black. So much so that sources in some hospitals say every patient on a vent is black. Here's why. In Chicago, a city where black people account for less than 30% of the population, 70% of the people who have died from COVID-19 are black. The majority of black COVID-19 patients who died had underlying health conditions, including respiratory problems and diabetes. 81% of them had hypertension or high blood pressure, diabetes, or both. It's disturbing and upsetting, but not surprising, said Dr. Linda Ray Murray, health policy professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago. This is just a reflection of the facts that we already know about these pandemics. People who are vulnerable will die quicker and won't have as many resources. Historically, Chicago's black communities have been disproportionately affected by health-related issues, including poverty, environmental pollution, segregation, and limited access to medical care. These conditions contribute to high rates of hypertension and diabetes. In Illinois, the rate of high blood pressure for black residents is around 48%. In Michigan, black people count for about 14% of the population, but are 35% of confirmed COVID-19 cases and 40% of the deaths. African Americans account for 35% of confirmed cases in the state and 40% of deaths from COVID-19. Caucasians account for 25% of cases and 26% of deaths. 34% of confirmed cases are of unknown race, as are 30% of deaths. In Milwaukee County, Wisconsin, black people account for 26% of the population, nearly half of its coronavirus cases, and 81% of its deaths. We don't have race data available yet for NYC, the epicenter of the America branch of the pandemic, but based on income data, we can see that it is hitting low-income black and brown neighborhoods the hardest. Black Americans are far more likely to work in service sector jobs than white Americans, meaning they were far more likely to work jobs where they come in contact with a lot of strangers and where they cannot social distance themselves or work from home. Black Americans are the least likely to own a car. They travel the furthest distance to get to work and are most likely to take public transit. Again, meaning they were more likely to be exposed to large numbers of strangers in cramped quarters. Black Americans have the lowest home ownership rates, meaning that even in the places they are sheltering in, they are coming in contact with far more people than those who live in a single family home. Now, even as Black Americans risk higher exposure, they already disproportionately suffer the comorbidities that make COVID-19 so deadly. Black Americans are 40% more likely to have hypertension than whites, twice as likely to have diabetes, and up to 3 times asthma hospitalization. Now, let's talk about insurance and whether the majority of black people can get access to COVID-19 tests or see a doctor with early symptoms. Black Americans are almost twice as likely to be uninsured as white Americans and pay greatest share of their income on premiums. The Affordable Care Act has helped to ensure health care coverage for millions of Americans. The uninsured rate among African Americans declined after the law was implemented. Of the more than 20 million people who have gained coverage under the ACA, 2.8 million of them are African American. Yet, this population is still more likely to be uninsured than white Americans. As of 2018, the uninsured rate among African Americans was 9.7%, while it was just 5.4% among whites. African Americans were more likely to be covered through employer-sponsored or private health insurance. 55% of African Americans used private health insurance in 2018, while 41.2% were enrolled in Medicaid or some other type of public health insurance. Moving on. Another thing, you guys make sure to support your local businesses in the community, the barbershops, the hair salons, the local diners. You may not be able to sit there, but they're still doing takeout or delivery. So keep that in mind. The government is working on a $350 billion COVID-19 relief fund. And this relief package is a stimulus for the small businesses affected by COVID-19. And there are a few qualifications to receive these funds as well. Your business will need to have been operative as of February 15th of 2020. Second qualification is you will need to have less than 500 employees, as well as employee salaries and payroll tax. You can apply for this relief package at intro.vc/SBA. This intro.indie.vc/SBA. And this is for the relief package for small businesses. Let me reiterate, you will need to have been in operation since February 15th of this year. You will need to have less than 500 employees, and you must pay the employee salaries and payroll tax. You can apply for this at intro.indie.vc/SBA. So next, we'll be getting into the black banking topic, or banking black, followed by jobs that are hiring now and that will be hiring after the coronavirus pandemic. We're going to go to a quick break really quick, and I'll be back to get you guys moving forward with the good info. Thanks for vibing out with the Sonic Universal Podcast. I'm your boy Solo_by_design. Follow me on Instagram. Be right back. Peace.